of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you.
Got as many people here as they did in Yankee Stadium this time.
Okay, Jerry is not here today, so I am running the meeting, and then BJ is online and can participate because she is away for caring duties, an acceptable reason to attend via Zoom. So you're muted, BJ, if you said anything. Okay. All right, so the first item on the agenda is, well, actually, I think because Brian and Ken are here, I'm going to move to item number 2, the scale house. So that way,
That'd be great.
you can get back to work.
Obviously, everybody's heard a lot of rumbling about the scale house. The scale house had a little issue for the second time now. Something got between the walls and created a stink. So the scale house is probably older than I am, I believe. It used to be, if you remember the old Cablevision tower up in the corner of where the highway department is now, there used to be a trailer there. Well, that's actually that trailer, and that's going back to the 1970s, I believe. And when we put the scale house in, the scales in 25 years ago, before we put the highway building there, we took that trailer, well, not we, the trailer, it was given to the town, and the town took it over there, and they put a false wall on the inside, which created a great big space between walls. And so every once in a while, something crawls in there, and we got a problem. So that's what happened. I have called around to a few places, and Casone Container, which I think you were familiar with them.
Yeah.
I spoke to them, and we can get a brand new one with a bathroom under county contract for $24,000.
Okay.
Which is good on the county contract. So they have a contract with the county, so we don't have to go out to bid or anything like that.
What's the dimensions on that one?
It's 20 by 80.
20 by 8?
Yeah, ours down there are just a little bit bigger than that.
Correct. Yeah, it's about 9 feet wide. I measured it, yeah.
Well, 9 feet wide because
Yeah,
it's built out to put the nice siding on.
yeah.
You know, same thing with the inside. So the wall on the inside, the wall is actually like 12 inches thick because it's a wall, original wall, and another wall. So
Yeah.
that's where we are. That's what we're dealing with if we would like to change that out.
And it'll,
I've been in that place several times during the worst times. And, I learned firsthand, up close and personal, what that smell was like.
Yeah. Oh, and we found what it was. We actually
Well,
found it.
yeah. I saw
It
pictures.
smelled like dead animals in there, no doubt about it. But the structure itself has seen much, much better day.
Oh, like I said, I think it's overnight.
Yeah, and I think the guys have been, more than patient. I am 100% in favor of replacing that
The
trailer.
only thing I'm worried about is that this is like a prefab metal container.
Yeah,
I'm worrying about that being metal because the scale was struck by lightning once.
Right.
So let's just take that into consideration, and we'll ask the town engineer and maybe Dave McGahey,
yes,
electrician,
Grounded.
this one that we have is grounded, but we just want to make sure we're doing the right thing.
yes.
yeah.
That's
It is literally right out in the open.
Well, we have one too, the same thing that you're talking about. We grounded ours as well. So it's precaution worth taking. But I think that going with a container as opposed to anything that's constructed, it's going to be much harder for the rats to get in the walls of a steel container. So
But
that's,
VMI, we still need, there's going to be holes for plumbing, electrical.
Yeah.
Because they do have holes for
Yep.
all that.
yep,
Internet,
yep.
electric, cable, scale, cable. So there's going to be a few holes
Yeah.
that hopefully we can put a better foundation under it too.
Yeah.
Because it's kind of hard to explain this one that we have because it's homemade,
I know.
like everything was back in the day.
Yeah, no, I checked it out. I know exactly what you're saying. It'll be a better option.
Oh, yeah, yeah. It's just like, a 24 is going to be a little bit shorter than what we have there now, but anything bigger, you go to custom.
Yeah.
And obviously the price goes up.
Right.
And they come with heat and air conditioning built in. So
Right.
it's already conditioned space, it already has built-in heat, it already has built-in AC. So it kind of covers all.
The salesman this morning, he sent me a quote already on the county bid, set up the way we want,
Mhm,
placement of the bathroom, the windows, to
right.
make sure that we're back in the same spot with the scale. And it's 23,949.
Okay.
Excellent.
And did they give you a time frame?
Yeah, that's right.
He's gonna get back to me on that.
Okay,
Actually, I told him I want to come up and see it first, because he thinks he might have one there.
okay.
So he's just got to find it. 'Cause
Where would that be located, Brian?
it's in
You say up there.
Lakeland,
Oh,
Bohemia, Lakeland.
Yeah,
okay. Yeah, that's nice to be able
Yeah.
to walk in on one, see what it looks like.
And this is a permanent fix.
Permanent.
Yes, right.
And money, you have somewhere in your budget?
I gotta look. Actually, we kind of,
We think we've got some.
we think we were going over the budget, getting ready for Friday, trying to know what we're gonna do, and then this came up and. Yeah.
okay.
So speaking, now that we're selling garbage, I was actually, had a phone call today from National Waste. And so end of this year, our 2-year contract with them is up with an option to renew for another 2 years. Okay. They're gonna send us a letter saying they wanna renew for another 2 years, but with a price increase. I said, well, if you're gonna do that, then I imagine the town board's gonna tell me to take it out to bid again. So they're gonna send us a letter, we'll see what that letter says, and then we'll make a decision from there, what you wanna do. If it's a significant increase, we'll probably put it out to bid again. If it's not, we'll see. But, this is actually a good time, because we're doing the budget to.
Since we have you both here, there's a couple other concerns. You know, that being the number one concern, the scale house. Number two is, we will put the roof on top of the recycling, over the recycling equipment, and that has dressed up that area immensely. I'm sure it's added to the longevity of the machines because they're not subject to rain and wind, well, to a degree. I mean, it is open, but it is better protected. And I know we originally had talked about the idea of putting some type of solar on top of that roof, because it is land and it does face, you know, in the right direction of southwest, you know, and how are we going to pursue that any further? Because I saw it come up in the comp plan on Saturday. A couple of people talked about that on the, you know, I just was
Yeah,
typing
they're
it up.
Post-it notes.
So it was fresh in my mind. They said, well, what about, you know, being able to be more green and having those machines being able to be powered up right there from the sun?
Yeah, I mean, yes, I think that's what we wanted to do. We just haven't gotten to it.
Okay. Is there something we need to bring up to Jen for her to research a little bit to see if
If there's something out there for
there's
grant, absolutely.
something out there?
I would think so.
Okay,
Because I'd like to see it too. I mean,
yeah,
moving forward beyond, and we've talked about it. I mean, I've got some other places that I think we could use it too, somewhere down the road. But I think that's as good a starting point as anything.
Yeah, we always talked about doing that right from the start.
it is.
And the highway bill,
Yeah.
because it's the same type of
All right, so
situation.
we're all on the same sheet of music there, same page. But the other third concern I had was the taking of the stuff in the highway storage area and relocating it, some of the stuff back, you know, maybe finding places at the recycling center that could be expanded for storage of impounded stuff or stuff, or the rings or something of that nature. I would love to see, because obviously that is potentially a housing area that we would like to reclaim and look at and move that stuff out of there. We need for both of you to kind of focus in on that a little bit, like, I mean, obviously you can't all probably go in one location. You might be able to divvy some stuff up, and you might be able to recover some areas in the recycling center that could be used for that. We've talked about the skateboard park that, again, is, personally, I would put I'd go by it and it's not locked up. To me, it's not a safe thing. It's not being inspected. It's an accident ready to happen. I'd put a lock and key on top of that. temporary type of thing, put a sign up, temporarily closed, until the town board or we figure out, oh, what are we gonna do with that area? Are we gonna keep it as a skateboard park? Are we gonna fix it up? Are we gonna maintain it? Are we gonna monitor it? Or are we gonna store some stuff there? Is it worth our while to use that space any longer? So, I mean, every square inch counts. It's a decent amount of property there that you could put boats and trailers and things like that, that might be, that we have in the impound yard. It might be able to find enough space to put some of that stuff. So I just ask you, since you're both here, think about it, take a look at the drawing of the recycling center, figure out clever ways where we might be able to take that stuff that we currently have there. I did talk to Brian about the number of rings that we have, close to 36. But of course, when fall comes around, and if you get the opportunity to use a dozen or so of those or more, that inventory will go down. Brian's response back to me was definitely that it's cheaper. You're always worried about money and stuff like that, and these rings will eventually be used. But is there a need to have 36 of them stored at any one time? Space is an issue. So those are the kind of things that I've just, while you're both together, start to think about these things. Just there's this, 3-month overlap here or 4-month overlap. So these are the kind of concerns that I have just as one person. And I'm sure the town board has, other things to look at. Obviously, I would also like to know how we're progressing with the dangerous corners. Again, back to the comp plan, we're talking about bike lanes and more safety and getting more protection for people, joggers, walkers, bicyclists, where we can improve safety. That's a whole subcommittee sitting down, thinking about, do we lower speed limits? The number one thing we could do right off the bat is reclaim town land that people have abused. And it amazes me that they go by it every day. I mean, you see it's growing out over the road. What are you gonna do something about? Why is it the towns this is stuff that's planted on your property that's overgrowing out onto the road. It's not a safe condition. You gotta understand, if God forbid something happens at that intersection or around that bend, you feel some sense of responsibility for that? I mean, I hate to be that tough about it, but damn it, it's an accident ready to happen. So let's put the push on these homeowners to spend the money to do it themselves or have somebody do it for them. I don't understand why the town has to do all this. These are obvious safety violations that needed to be addressed. Now, for me, the 8 years I've been here on the town board, and I think it's the number one thing that we can do to improve, to safeten our roads for everybody, motorists included.
So to answer that last question, we handed out 50 some violations to 50 different homeowners.
Well, notice is a violation.
Notices of violation.
Notice is a
I've
violation.
talked to probably a dozen that are working to cut them back.
I love it.
So every day now that people are calling in, what do you need me to do?
Yep.
I said, if you can't do it, we can do it for you, but just be in mind, we're not landscapers, it might not look as good if a
Right.
professional at it. But we're slowly getting there, people are seeing it, people are noticing what's going on, and they're starting to call to say, what can we do, can we talk about it? Because they have concerns, they think it's their property, which some of it is their property, so we have to be careful. But it is that first step to taking care of this problem.
It also avoids putting our people, our highway department, in difficult situations when people come screaming out of the house, what are you doing? And they may know it, but the homeowner may not know it. We're reclaiming the
Right,
12 feet,
that's
the
why
10 feet,
I
the
wanna
8 feet,
talk
whatever it
about
might be. But if you did it, you might have been able to cut it back 4 or 5 feet and satisfied the need and made a much safer situation without going the entire 10 or 12 feet. Again, it's a little bit of compromise, but it's just working together, and I'm glad that you have that many people that are willing to do this. But for the people that are not, or you're not hearing back from it, here's a second notice, here's the date we're coming in, again, I don't want to, but again, it puts our guys in a difficult situation, in a confrontational situation, when they start taking, chainsaws and cutting limbs on trees and bushes and stuff, and people come out screaming, what are you doing?
Well, it's getting to that time of year that this is the time of year that we start to do that roadside cutting anyway, and that's why Brian started the process with,
Yeah.
sending these notifications out, and if it requires a second notification or whatever, and then.
We started before Labor Day, so it wasn't like
Yeah.
everybody wasn't here.
Right.
So we're trying to do, and then, and we're gonna, we've already sort of had conversations, we're gonna have conversations with the crew, we're gonna make sure that also, our foreman and our guys are out there, so that if somebody does come out and encounters a guy that's a member of the crew, that we at least have somebody that can talk to them, or at least they can say, listen, here's the phone number to call Brian, or call Dave, or me, or whatever it has to be to do that. So we're trying to be as proactive and communicative as possible, I think, moving forward before we actually start doing some of the work. So,
I mean, I'm trying to speak to everybody beforehand, before anything even happens.
Right.
Just so they know that, you're not being singled out or.
Sure.
And show them what the problem is.
Right.
I met with, about 4 people the other day, last week, about the same thing, and so everybody's on the same
and we
page.
did have an ad in the paper too. Brian put a
Right,
notice in the
yes,
paper
correct.
before the notices even went out to everybody. So there's been a number of,
Yeah.
communications. I think we're ahead of it in that game, that we're definitely,
Yeah.
to that
Yeah.
point.
It's the number one thing that you can do to make roads safe. Even that idea of lowering the speed limits from 35 to 30 is controversial. Not everybody feels that way. Some people say, 35, we're going at the snail's pace, and on this road, it doesn't need to go to 30. Other people are dying for it to go to 25. It's not a clear picture. Widening the roads. I don't want you to widen the roads. I like it. I like the roads the way they are. We widen the roads, we're going to get more traffic, and it's debatable. But what's not debatable is this issue of dangerous situation because of vegetation that literally blinds the driver, the jogger, the biker, the walker.
I think it's also, this is just me, but I think it's also important, and Brian and I have spoken about this, but I think it's something that, yes, we're addressing it right now. He's doing a good job of, again, communicating this need, but I feel strongly moving forward, from me sitting in his position and moving forward with the building department and code enforcement, we have to start with these things from the beginning.
Right, yes.
When somebody's going to a construction site, and a lot of construction sites, the first things people do are put up a fence around it and start planting a bunch of hedges so it doesn't have to be seen from the road.
Right.
Well, the reality is a lot of those hedges end up in the setback area or in the roadside, that it's eventually going to grow into, people have to understand, like, you might have to plant them back a little further on your property, and they're going to grow out to the right of way.
Yeah.
And so I think it's important that we have that communication between,
That's it.
the highway department, the building department, the code enforcement piece of it. So you sort of nip these things in the bud before you get to a place where, we're 20 years down the road and somebody planted cryptomeria and now they're growing halfway into the lane. It's kind of one of those.
That is an excellent point, because when people do plant those privets and they go back to the 12 feet or 10 feet right to the property line. Yeah, but it's not just growing toward the house, it's growing towards the road.
Right.
And you realize it grows not a foot, not 2 feet or 3 feet. It's 4, 5 feet, 6 feet out. That hedge gets to be 10 feet wide, 12 feet wide. It becomes an issue. You have to, if you want to put privets in, then if the mark is 12 feet, you got to plant it 17 or 18 feet and assume that that 4 or 5 foot growth over the next decade is going to go to the 12-foot line. It's just good common sense that people should have. Same thing with trees and everything else that they plant way too close to the road. Thanks.
Yeah.
But I think all of us were concerned about it, and it's a morale thing, and it's a safety thing, it's a health issue, having people working on those conditions. And I know it's happened a couple of times, but we could do better. I think they deserve better.
Yeah, and one thing, which is a question for Stephen, is sometimes there are, and I've seen last week, a couple of these properties that are, actually, it is their property, and nowhere near the town right away. So that's something we need to speak about. You know,
Yeah, that's different. We have no authority, unless we'd have to change the town code to, like in certain municipalities on corner lots, you're not allowed to plant any vegetation within a certain triangle at that corner. And then, also outside of that, you're only allowed a certain height for a certain distance. So that's something that we'd have to discuss, but if it's on their property as of now, there's nothing we can
I
do.
mean, one of them last week I spoke to was actually on his property, but he's gonna trim it anyway, so, you know, they're doing very nice. So it's like I said, it's a give and take type of thing, everybody working together.
So, thank you.
Thank you,
both for
guys.
coming in.
All right.
Thank you.
Next on the agenda, we'll go back to number 1, which is American Direct LLC, care of Richard Hogan. It is a dock application at 2 Sherwood Court. Just to remind everybody, it was to remove 2 existing mooring dolphins on the west side of the existing dock, remove the existing 8,000-pound elevator-style boat lift and replace with the new David Master 4.8,000-pound cradle boat lift, install 2 12-inch pilings for new 4-point boat lift, construct and install a new 6-foot by 24-foot float, install 95 feet plus or minus of splashboard offshore end of the existing main dock and the L. And the Waterways Management Advisory Council on September 11th came back with the existing dock has a floating dock that was installed without the benefit of permit. Only 1 member approved the application. 1 member did not approve the application in the entirety. Majority of the committee would agree to trade removal of the existing unused dolphin pilings for the installation of the new reinforcing splashboards. Majority of the committee disapproved to legalize the existing float.
That is it. That is it in a nutshell. That was exactly what was said. There was no consensus on this application other than what was just stated.
I think in a way we could probably break this down into like each of the things that's happening,
Yeah.
like removing the 2 existing mooring dolphins on the west side of the existing dock.
Correct.
Anybody have any issues with that?
No.
No.
And then to remove the existing boat lift and replace with the new cradle boat lift. Does anyone have any problems with that?
No.
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 Yeah, because he had issues with the original boat lift. Didn't the boat flip out of the lift or something?
It did. Yeah, this is a more up-to-date type of lift, I think. Great.
And then I guess the construct and install a new 6-foot by 24 float. That is that the,
So the
replacing the non-permitted float? That's what I was having trouble with the drawings, is not understanding
Thought it was the
exactly.
second floor.
It's the second float. Oh, BJ?
Yeah, it was to legalize the existing, basically, the goal here is to legalize or acknowledge the existence of an unpermitted float. And the WMAC did not agree with that. Yeah. They broke it down. They would agree to the splashboards. And that's about it.
Yeah, and I don't have a problem with the splashboard since the recommendation was that the majority of the committee
Yes.
agreed with that as well. So it's really, I think the issue then is the float. Do.
So, okay, here's my question about the float. So he doesn't have a permit for the float. He put it in without permit. But did he state that he put it in for safety reasons? Because gets very rough. The waters get very rough on that side. So
That's
if
it exactly.
it's a safety concern,
He
then
did,
I'm
yeah.
in favor of approving the float. Just because I do know how rough it gets in that channel. And I would hate for us to not approve a float for safety reasons and have something tragic happen. That's just my personal moral compass. But with this application, what I would like to do is in the resolution, write that if an act of God destroys this dock, then there is no grandfathering right to replace it. Because it's an interesting location, it's a challenging location. The reason why all these splashboards are necessary is because it's a very rough, sort of outside waters kind of area. And, you know, it's one of those locations where it's questionable on whether or not it's a good site for a dock to begin with. But because there was a dock there, we allowed the dock. But I feel like if this dock gets taken out with the splashboards, because now the splashboards will create more resistance for the water to flow by ice flows or hurricane, storm surge, or anything like that, I feel like that's just evidence that this dock is not in a good or safe location and it shouldn't be allowed to be rebuilt. I'm just going to throw that one out there.
I agree with everything
I
you
like
said.
that.
I agree with everything you said.
But also taking into account the fact that this is a very rough area, especially in the summer when you have these large boats going through that South Ferry Channel. I would really hate for someone to get hurt because we didn't approve a floating dock that, you know, could have possibly mitigated that.
Yeah, we've also got,
And Stephen, is that, I hate to put you on the spot, but is that possible?
Yes.
because we also have the Prager dock coming up soon, which is also kind of on the same side of the island there, which other docks along there have not been usable docks.
Right, it's a rough area. You get a lot of inconsistent wave action because you're in the channel. So you get the boats coming through, it's just a challenging location.
Christina, you're the committee clerk for that. Was there anything, I didn't see in what I had printed out for this application, any addressing of a safety issue or?
Jack stated it at the last town board meeting that that's why
Yeah,
they originally
At our
installed
public
it.
hearing.
it definitely came up in conversation. It definitely
Yeah,
was presented because of that very reason.
Thank you.
Somebody even mentioned, I hate to say it, his age and saying,
And the grand-
younger grandchildren, mentioned the age of the younger grandchildren using it as a safety feature. So I think Meg has articulated it as about as well as I could ever. No, I totally agree with it. And again, if this is destroyed by Mother Nature, you know, and it's not successful and this dock, there's major damage to boat, dock, or property damage there, it should not be replaced.
EJ, how do you feel about this?
Yeah, I'm agreeing very much with Meg's two observations. I had a short-term memory issue, but yes, I do remember now Jack mentioning, Jack Costello, that is, the safety factor in his presentation to the town board.
I mean, I absolutely understand WMAC's desire to deny it based on the fact that it's illegal to begin with. And, you know, the thought that if you needed this for safety reasons, you should have come to us with the proposal for the request. But at the same point, if it is really a safety concern, then I would approve it.
Yeah.
Because that dock is still there.
Correct.
And it's
Correct.
gonna
And
be
so it'll be
used.
used, so I would like to
Be
use
used
it in a
unsafely
safe
unless-
way
yeah,
if
right.
possible.
You know, this is an ongoing, we're never going to solve it issue, which is, I mean, we can just chip away, I think, which is, you know, when in the community, there is some of the, you know, ask for forgiveness, you know, it's easier than getting permission. And so we as a town board, I know we've expressed this often, we don't really want to encourage that. That being said, the dock does exist.
Yeah.
Right.
And
Yeah.
so
Do we want to
know
do
it's
anything?
a safety issue.
No, I think what there was the P word came up about penalties, you know, is to discourage this as we try to discourage anything which does not follow correct procedure and obtaining permits and doing it the right way. We have to start to talk about penalties because otherwise we are, again, I think you've said it very well, just ask for forgiveness and, you know, what are they going to say? You know, it's an easier route to go. I don't have to, you know.
Yeah, the fine schedule here is useless. It's up to $250.
Right, so we need
Violation.
to address that.
But what you should do, the last time the dock fees were updated was in 2012. And application fee of $250 to construct a new dock, or a fee rather, is ridiculously low. So what you should probably do is similar to what the building department does, and for any as-built structures, the fee would be triple, quadruple, whatever, but you also should at the same time raise the fee.
What's the current fee right now?
$250 for new construction, $125 for repair.
Is that in code or that's just a resolution?
Well, in code defers to the resolution, so allows you to change fees via resolution, so we can just update it via resolution.
Is that where the penalty is as well?
There's,
Is that in- I don't.
The penalty's in the code.
It is? I didn't, do you know what section?
It's
Because as part of this. I
It's
would-
5320.
penalties if there's a violation on the DEC's end.
Because I'd like to assess the penalty, since we're aware of it. I mean, it's just a drop in the bucket, but. No.
Yeah, I guess, yeah, we could
Mhm.
issue a violation and take them to court on it. But again, the most the court can do is give a $250 fine.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I feel like anytime we get these, especially things that come before the ZBA, where we, it comes to light that somebody did something, I want to start breaking in the contractors who worked on things that were illegal and
We
bringing
just
them before
need to
contractor license.
reconstitute the
Yes.
review board.
Yes, exactly, yeah, we need to do that, but I think we need to start doing that so that there is consequence for people doing things that they shouldn't be doing.
Yeah.
Even if it's just $250 in this case.
And I support that 100% as well. I think that there's got to be a penalty involved, and I think we need to start to consistently enforce these penalties, and we have to take a look at the penalties themselves. They have to be much more severe than $250, or people who are very well-to-do are just going to say, let's drop in a bucket. I'll just do it illegally and $250 thing, and no big deal.
Yeah.
You know.
Yep. We definitely have to go through.
And by the way, I think it goes a long way. There was one other thing I'm a little concerned about too, and I'm sure BJ would share this, is the morale of the troops. And that's, I'm talking about the members of the WMAC that are conscientiously trying to do a good job. And if the town board is not going to support them in some way here, and I think it does help both liaisons, both BJ and I, when we go to the next meeting, to say, yes, and we've decided to instill a penalty. I realize it's only $250, but it called attention to the fact that we need to up our ante there. And I think that will help a little bit in terms of explaining it to 7 people around the table. That's just my opinion. BJ, I don't know if you share that, but.
You're on mute.
Sorry, yeah, I do. It is, I think there is a discouraging factor here. And when the town board overrides a volunteer committee's decisions, they're working hard, they're doing the due diligence. We understand that. But that being said, that, the safety issue, which, might weigh heavier on our shoulders than it does on theirs. So, I mean, that would be.
No, that's number one. Has to be always number one, safety.
All right, so as we wrap up on this one, you have the 2 points we want incorporated into a resolution
Yes.
that approves the dock. You'll also look at changing the code for the upping the penalties. Which I guess we should put on for a work session to discuss what we think would be appropriate, but if you could draft.
Correct, but
for us,
then also the resolution for the,
fees.
so the fees, the fines, and yep,
All right, so you got 3 new things on your plate.
nice.
Good. All right, next on the agenda is the Northern Spy Productions filming permit application. And this is at 5 Seagate Road. It is on October 17th through October 20th. They want to do still photography plus small profile, B-roll, motion content capture, window treatments and outdoor furniture for Umbrella Fabrics Company. Roughly 5 to 6 personal vehicles plus a prop truck and a merchandise truck.
I can only tell you that last week I went down to the home where we had many more trucks for 2 days on Thursday and Friday. The weather was perfect on one day and semi-perfect on the next. The storm started moving in. I believe it was on Friday or Thursday when the weather changed. But it went well. All the vehicles were off the road. Neighbors didn't seem to complain. Again, I think one of the things that the people in the neighborhood asked for is this not be a continual event. So the fact that they have only one of these in the past 12 months, I think is something that we can live with, especially when it doesn't cause a disruption to the neighborhood. You know, if it became an ongoing thing where, you know, once a month, people coming in for a couple of days, I think we would have a lot to say about
You're
that.
only allowed to
Yes,
twice
right,
per year.
right.
For this location, I don't recall any.
No, there hasn't been any 2023 besides. I think she's present if you have any.
Yes, I was going to say, we do have the applicant's representative present.
Hi.
Hi, Naomi.
How are you?
What's your address on this?
It is,
One thing I want, sorry, go ahead.
5CB. Go ahead, Naomi.
I just wanted to add a note, just because I had a call with the Sombrella client yesterday, and they've also expressed some interest in, I guess there's a path from this house down to Wade's Beach, I believe it's called. And they did express some interest in shooting down there as well. Not bringing, you know, trucks or anything major down there, but just like a small sort of unit of a few people on foot to do some satellite shots from the house. So that was just an additional piece of information I wanted to share with you all.
What I'd like to get is a site plan on that then.
Okay, yeah, I
just
have,
not-
sorry, I have, the art director for the shoot is planning to head out there to do, some additional measurements at the house on Thursday. So,
Mhm.
I can have her take some pictures and then I can do like a satellite schematic for you of where it will be. Does that work?
Yes, please. And then just exactly, you know, what you intend to do there.
Yeah, because that could be a sensitive area. I think that goes through, that path goes through some marshy, wetlandsy kind of area. So we just want to be
Okay.
sure that you can do what you want to do without any harm.
Yeah, absolutely. And of course, if there's any, if Wade's Beach in and of itself is the problem, I know, you know, when you're dealing with wetlands, that's always a bigger concern. Then we can eliminate those shots. You know, we don't want to, the private property house shoot, we don't want to, like, it's not a deal breaker for us, is my point.
So is the path on Wade's Beach, or is it from the house to the water?
This I don't know yet, because when we went to the, they just yesterday presented me with this, and I'm in Brooklyn. I haven't been back out to Shelter Island since, but on Thursday, our art director, she's good friends with the homeowners. She's headed out there to take some additional measurements for some window treatments we're installing. And she will get me, I'll have her do some pictures for us, and then I'll do a schematic and let you know not only where we'd be interested in shooting, but how we would like to access it. And then you can give us permission or not, I guess, based on that.
Okay, sounds good.
Yeah, we'll put you on for next week then. Chief
Okay,
Reed,
great.
you have your hand up, I guess, weighing in on this.
Yeah,
Yeah,
just to weigh in on, I just want to clarify, you're not going to use the path for photo shoot, you're just going to use it to access the beach, correct?
I believe so. Yeah. They, again, I did scout the house, but I didn't scout the beach. And they just mentioned yesterday that they wanted to look into doing some shots on the beach. So I told them that I would let you guys know about that additional request, and I'll give you more information. I can probably get that information to you on Friday.
Right, so the schematic would be what you plan to do on the beach.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Schematic and any details about what shots they're talking about.
Yeah, but that path kind of ends at where the bocce ball court is, behind the bathroom, that area. It's just a cut through the house.
Okay, yep,
Okay.
yep.
Okay, yeah, I see it. I'm looking at it on GIS. It's.
And I guess if we're concerned about the sensitive nature of that pathway, we could always just redirect you to
The street.
over streets.
For sure. And a question that I had was, you had mentioned, I don't know if that was you, Jim, who said that regarding a prior shoot in that area, that there, how the parking had been organized. The house itself does not have a very deep driveway for us to be putting all of our vehicles in there. And we're staying at the Pridwin. We can certainly carpool from there and eliminate vehicles as much as possible. But there will be probably 2 box trucks that we will need to have on site in order to access our props and our merchandise. So I know there's a cul-de-sac that the house is on. If there's anything that you can share with me as far as like preferred parking for the trucks, that's great. And we will follow whatever you advise. Sometimes I know if it's not possible to park in the roadway or anywhere near the site, we can also talk to local businesses about setting up some sort of parking fee with them and run a shuttle. But the trucks are something that we do need to have close by, so.
Yes, Chief Reed would be the guy to coordinate that with.
It's sensitivity to neighbors and not obstructing driveway accesses, road access. That's mostly what that's about, especially over a couple of days. So I can get with you on that. We can probably go direct on that if that's needed.
Okay, great. Is there a way for me to email you or call you? What do you prefer for that?
Sure. Email me is great.
Okay, what's your address?
JREAD@shelterislandtown.gov.
Okay, great. I'll reach out then.
Yep.
Stephen, from a legal perspective, do you have any concerns that we need to have them address?
No, but there's extra requirements. There's different insurance, and then they have to execute an indemnity and hold harmless agreement whenever they're using town property.
So
So,
yeah, Amber's the contact for them, so get that to her and she'll send it on to you, Naomi.
Okay, great. Yep, I can follow up on any of that.
Any other questions?
No.
Okay, all right, we will see you next week, Naomi.
Great, thank you so much.
That's it for the agenda, so we can do board member reports.
I'll start. I just want to thank everybody who came to the comprehensive plan open house on Saturday. We had a great turnout. It was about 170 people, according to Coco, who is our master counter when it comes to checking everybody in and keeping track of everything. So it was a really great turnout. All of the documents are available on the town website. There's a button on the website for comments. You can also email comments to Coco. Her email's on the website. You can drop hard copy comments off at Town Hall. I will be posting all the poster boards from the open house here in the boardroom. I'm just waiting for the foam boards to come so I can have something hard to hang them on. And those should be coming today. So we'll have that all up on display for people to come and leave additional comments. I've taped all the Post-it notes and all the comments directly onto the board so they won't fall off or get lost, so that everybody's information and content stays up there. So it was a really wonderful turnout. We got some really great feedback. It helped to clarify what action items or recommendations people like, what people don't like, what people are confused by, what needs to be clarified, maybe where we need to look deeper into certain topics. So it was really a wonderful turnout and a great event. The consultants were impressed. They said they've never had such a large turnout for a comprehensive plan open house before. So I was very proud of us. I think that as a community, we're doing a great job getting involved. So thank you.
I think when we move this to the town board public hearings, I'd like to move the venue over to the auditorium.
Yeah.
For
Yeah.
our public hearings.
Yeah, I mean, at that point, it'll absolutely make sense to do that. We really wanted people to be able to interact with the documents and kind of give us more of a, like the stickers are a great visual way to see just in a snapshot what people are liking, what people aren't liking, and to kind of give us a little bit of a scale or a barometer on how it's going. So I think it was a good way to get everybody warmed up to the whole process and like to kick off engagement, which was kind of the goal of it. Because I feel like the more people physically interact with something and each other and talk about it and discuss it, the more interest it builds. So that was really the goal of the open house, was to get people interested, get people involved, and to just really get some solid feedback, which I think we did.
When the boards are hung here, will we have Post-it so people can continue to
Yes.
add comments?
So we'll have Post-its on the table with pens. I don't have any stickers, so we won't have stickers, but you can make a circle and write a G in it, or make a circle and write an R in it, and you know, that'll help. Or
We can order some stickers.
we can order some stickers, but yeah, so I mean, so far it's been great. Coco and I are going through the town calendar to figure out all the open days so that the CPAC can start scheduling meetings, to start going over all these comments. So the comment period for this current draft is open until October 15th, and then we're going to close that comment period for this current draft of the plan so that the consultants can make changes and revisions to the document based on the public's feedback, CPAC feedback, and then from there, there'll be another draft that comes out to the public for review. So, you know, it's just this version that we're working on right now. So October 15th is the deadline for comments on this version, and then the whole process will start again with the next version.
What is the plan for, like, who decides what comments get incorporated, what comments come out, things like that? Who's got the say in that?
So the CPAC is going to discuss it all. So we're going to go over all the boards and all the comments and anything that was questioned, or, you know, go over the comments, see if there's things that we missed. I know people want to see more information about fertilizer restriction and regulation. So maybe come up with a code or a recommendation for that. There are some recommendations that we have right now that were unclear, and people, you know, wrote that down. So, you know, the CPAC kind of came up with them. So we're going to revise them, go through and be like, okay, what was the intention of this? It's not clear. It's not coming across. How can we reword it? How can we fix it? And then send it to the consultants and get their feedback, you know. So it'll be a joint effort between the CPAC and the consultants, you know, using the consultants' expertise and the CPAC's background knowledge on why these things existed in the first place.
With the resignation of 3 CPAC members, what is the board's thoughts, you two, BJ, on, do we replace? Do we just go with a lower number?
I personally think that we should just go with the lower number, because historically we haven't been replacing members as they come off the board. This is also, you know, sort of the tail end of this. It's going to be hard to bring anybody new in. They're going to have a huge learning curve as far as what we've already done and, you know, what background knowledge everybody on the current CPAC already has. So my recommendation would be to just keep moving forward with the group that we have. You know, if we reconstitute with 6 members, it'll be easier for a quorum, so we'll be able to have more meetings in order to spend more time going through the comments that we've received. The larger the group gets, the harder it is to get a quorum and to hold meetings. So we're hoping to have, you know, more meetings if we're able to get, you know, the people together for a quorum. And this is not a group that can meet without quorum because of the way it's organized. So our hope is really that if we can get more meetings on the books, then we can get a deeper kind of review of all the commentary we've received and get that to the consultants timely. What do you think, BJ?
Yeah, I concur. You know, it's a matter of just stepping through. Now, this is opening up to the public at large. So, you know, there does have to be a deep review of the comments. Meg and I were out all summer listening to groups of the public in their natural environment. And so some of those comments did make their way into the plan. And one of the criticisms that I think we should listen to, of course, of the people who resigned was that some of those went into the plan. We hadn't had a CPAC meeting, and they seemed reasonable. They weren't big marquee recommendations, but they seemed reasonable to include there. However, let's hear that recommendation from the 3 people who resigned, that it all should be vetted by CPAC. And so how do we get that done? And let's continue with the group we started with, and try to get this new wave of public commentary reviewed.
Yeah, well, and then also in speaking with the remaining CPAC members, they're amenable to that. You know, they don't have a problem working with the smaller group and just moving forward and continuing to go through the process and continuing to work on the project.
Support that. It would be very difficult to bring people up to speed at this point.
I mean, my concern is that, you know.
And it'll just create more controversy. I mean, to be honest, it's the Because we haven't done it in the past. It would be a change of procedure, really, because we've already had 2 members come off the committee and we haven't filled those positions.
Yeah, I'm just, I guess, concerned about the smallness of the group. Do we have the same balance that we once had? Because that, that, when we put the committee together, that was, it's second homeowners who had, people who were in, raised here, a mix of men and women, mix of skill sets and
Socioeconomic
professions and things like that, socioeconomic groups. So I'm just concerned, do we have the right balance and do we have enough input? But
I think that we have all the input from the community. So we have all sides written on those poster boards. We have commentary that we've received online that shows all different sides of the discussion and the arguments. And, I think that if this group of people is willing to stay in and continue working on the project, despite the way some of them have been treated and spoken to, I think that we should respect that and let them move forward and continue to do the job that they signed up for, if they're willing to keep doing it.
We have the public's attention, everyone is focused on this, more and more people, what is a comp plan, what's this all about? So I don't want to lose that engagement.
I have
just
some
wanna make
remarks
sure
on because I'm only going to speak on the comp plan. I'm not.
Well, I don't think we're going to lose engagement, and I don't think that.
My concern is if we pause and then advertise and interview people to replace.
Oh, and that's,
My
yeah.
concern is then there's where we lose the momentum.
Yeah, no, because we haven't done it in the past, I don't think it would be appropriate to do it now necessarily. I think it's better to just keep moving forward with the people who already kind of understand where all of this came from. To try to catch somebody up from the beginning is going to be a challenge.
We may have to issue a resolution reducing the number of members. The
Yeah, that-
CPAC was originally created as 12 members. We reduced it to 9. The resolution said it shall be set at 9 members.
right. So we do need to do another reso to reduce the number again.
Accept the resignations and reduce
Yeah,
the members.
yeah. I think that's the appropriate way to move forward.
Next town meeting is October 11th.
Well, now, here's the other thing. If we can get enough committee members to start meeting before October 11th, I would like to do, a special meeting so that we can have meetings as soon as I can get quorums for the CPAC, because there's a lot of new information that we received from the community on Saturday. So I would, be in favor of doing a special next Tuesday just to pass that resolution so we could schedule meetings if people are available.
The quorum is based on a 9 number
Right.
until we reduce it.
Correct.
Would have to be
So-
7 out of the 6 would have to.
Correct. So if we can, reduce it, then it would be 4 is the quorum out of 6.
Mhm. Although at this point, with only 6, I think it's really important for all 6 to participate.
Yeah.
Another thought in there. Lost it. I'll come back to it.
I'll put some thoughts in that you can respond to as well.
The meetings, the CPAC meetings continue to be open to the public, so.
Oh, yeah. No, everything is open to the public. So the CPAC meetings will all be open to the public like they've always been. And, yeah, and everything's still open to the public. And this is just the next step. It's not like they're making any final determinations on anything, because then it all goes back to the public for additional review. This is a cleanup of the document based on all of the input we've received at this open house meeting and online and in other ways. Because I've had people hand me sticky notes to add to things, it's just incorporating everything.
Well, I'm just going to amend that, not everything. We're not going to incorporate everything, but.
Oh, no, I meant considering and going through and looking through everything we've received.
Yeah, we just can't. I mean, some of it is nonsensical. Some of it, we have reviewed, strength of language and whether that is in the island's interest or not. I mean, there is, there are these other considerations. I know you're aware, Meg. I'm just kind of saying that for the audience.
Anything else from you for board reports?
No, I think that was my big thing this weekend, was really that. Did I miss anything, BJ?
No, you got it all. I mean, it was, I hope nobody got sick. I just felt like there were a lot of germs in that room too. I was surprised that I should have masked. Everybody should have masked. It just was a crowded space. But that being said, I agree with Meg. It was terrific. A lot of people came up to me and said, I don't really like public speaking, but let me just say X, fill in the blank. So there was a lot of worthwhile interplay because we were in person. I think Zoom intimidates people, some people not so much. And so anyway, that was a kind of a revelation for me. Oh, here we are having just a regular conversation with without the person having to be nervous or fearful or whatever, and able to speak their mind. That was really useful. So I have some notes on that. But other than that, yeah, it was a good day.
I thought it's also a good opportunity for people from the community to stand in front of the boards, look at them and discuss with each other too. Not just with the
Yes.
consultants,
Yeah.
not just with the people, who have been working on this for a while, but just also with other community members.
I agree with that. That's where learning goes on. And there were a lot of questions that were being asked. And, obviously being a town board member, people were asking me questions about, well, and you try to explain it to the best of your ability. But I did notice a lot of this good, solid discussion between people standing in front of a board about a particular item on the board. And sometimes there was some lack of understanding or needed clarification, things of that nature.
Yeah, there are a lot of points that I realize do need clarification, don't come across clearly or succinctly enough. So, I think we have some work to do, but I think the feedback that we've received was great.
I would like to
Okay,
jump
Jim?
on that one.
Yeah, I was gonna say,
Again.
segue to you.
So BJ spent 7 hours here yesterday going through every one of those boards. And
Jim did, not you, BJ.
board, sheet by sheet, I counted every green and every red sticker. I recorded every comment on handwritten. I'm now in the process of typing it all up to hand to you guys. And, very quickly, you can see where there's 19 green stickers and no red stickers on a thing. You don't need to spend any time on that. Like on chapter 1, introduction vision, the first one down there on exercising responsible stewardship. But when it comes to number 3, where it says maintain vibrant year-round island community that meets residents' economics and social needs, there were 13 green and 13 red. So I would circle that and say, hey, listen, we need to look at that a little bit more carefully. So I'm hoping that by this process, with the comments that I put down below them, trying to explain some of the rationale of why people chose to put a green comment or red comment down there, that it helps narrow your focus so that you're not tackling every bit of it, because right now is the time to hone in on areas that needs extra attention, so to speak. But my opening remarks basically are this. I echo everybody's excellent community turnout. I've never seen a better turnout, for a community event, and at least in a long, long time. I know with the Black Lives Matter, we put quite a few people out and other things, but for a function like this, it was impressive. I think overall, my second impression that I walked away with was, I think that there's a realization amongst almost every one of the 170 people that attended that this town comprehensive plan, although neglected for maybe 29 years, should be a focal point, is an important document, needs to be done correctly. And how long that takes, I don't know, but it needs the attention and it is valuable. It will guide decision-making for years to come. And it's a valuable tool but it needs to gain the respect and support of a majority of the community, a good majority of the community. And I think that the task will be for you guys to bring people together on these issues, on more controversial issues, to break those controversial issues down and to see if there's any room for negotiations between how we can reword that in a more positive way, you know, to satisfy the needs of everybody. The third thing is that my comment is, this is a draft. It's a draft document. It's not the final document. There's no strict deadline for adoption of this plan. The most important thing to do is to get it right. That's in my book, and I think most people that attend it, I want to see it done correctly. No, it's just my feeling. I'm expressing this feeling, but this is where I want to be very careful. I'm going to read it. Rather than slow the process down, we should be working on the current interest and the momentum that this issue has raised in our community. Now it's time to capitalize. In other words, capitalize on the energy and the interest now and continue to work on improving the process. People use the word process a lot. If there's something wrong with the process, it needs to be fixed. We need to continue to identify specifics within the proposed drafted plan and work towards amending these points and gathering consensus. If we have learned just one thing from either our local government, county, state, or federal government, we need to be more respectful of one another and be willing to compromise when it serves for the greater good. That's what the comprehensive plan should serve, for the greater good of the island, not for any one individual. And that's on both sides of any issue. So what I've done today is I put another 3-4 hours in this morning of actually going through this and typing up pages like this, color coding them, green, red comments, and trying to isolate in on the specifics. My last comment is just one personal thing. As a Vietnam veteran, I would ask anybody out there that thought that putting those 3 signs on Wilson Circle about slowing the process down is an appropriate place for those signs. We don't put any signs in front of our American Legion, in front of the stones. And Wilson Circle, Jimmy Wilson was the only veteran of the Vietnam War from Shelter Island that was killed in action. I do respect that circle for what it stands for. And I do think that those 3 signs, I'm not against the signs, but not there. That's all I'm asking. So whoever put those 3 signs up, I was tempted to move. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to ask for the people to put those signs up to think about not putting them on the front lawn of the Legion and not putting them in Wilson Circle, because I think it's if I was a member of the Wilson family, and I'm speaking for the Wilson family, I'm definitely speaking as a Vietnam veteran. I think that it's not sacred ground, it's not a cemetery, but it is an area in town that's designated to pay tribute to a person that gave their life for their country. Thank you. That's all I have to say. But I think we can get this done. I really
Jim.
do. Yes.
Jim, thank you so much for doing that, because I know that's your skill set. So I really appreciate the time you're putting in for that. And yeah, what you just talked about, Wilson Circle, I don't want to choke up here, but that is a small town value of that. Whoa, we can't legislate that. It's not in the comp plan, but it's a nice reminder of why why we want to save what's left.
Well put.
BJ, do you have anything for around the table on board reports?
No, I don't. I was consumed by Saturday. I have to just add this little humorous bit. We said to people, Meg and I would be there until 4, which we were. But we were on the couch at 3.
Full out on the couch.
Full out, we were just pooped. But anyway, so if that bothered anybody, it's not, we didn't welcome you, we did, but we were tired.
Yeah.
I have 2 things. I'll start with EMS. There was our quarterly meeting, and just a couple of quick updates. 2 new members. One is an RN and one is interested in the medical profession.
Nice.
Those 2 new members replaced the 2 that are out on medical leave, but that's a good sign. We're holding steady. I didn't write down how many EMS members we have. They've got a whole bunch of different things going on. They met with the fire department. They've done some training things with the fire department over in, I think it was in Greenport, some bigger kind of trainings with the whole East End. cricket match happened. It's now sponsored by the EMS Foundation, which I knew they were the beneficiary. I didn't realize that the EMS Foundation took over sponsorship. And conveyed to Jack about the concerns in the budget going to 24/7 with the EMT staff. So he knows to come in and he's going to bring statistics. I said, that's what we're going to really, be interested in seeing from him. So I don't, he's on the schedule. We'll discuss Friday, the schedule of who's coming and when.
Yes.
And then the Zoning Board of Appeals just had one work session that they went over an application, but they are in the process of revising the forms. So Christina worked very hard on that, and their work, they're going to get those out there. So anyone who applies for a variance will see updated forms. So we're just everywhere, we're trying to improve a little here and there. You probably worked on them as well. So thank you, you too. That is all that I had. So we'll open it up to the public. We have one audience member in person, so we always go to the in-person people first.
Hi, my name's Kelly Nolan, and I appreciated that comp plan meeting a lot. And I appreciated the fact that Megan BJ ended up on the couch, and all the hard work has not gone unnoticed, for sure. So I'm here today speaking both as a resident myself personally, and also as president of the Shelter Island Association, and just confirm again how much all of it's appreciated. To the commentary that we all want it to get done right, I think that we've said a few times that it's new to a lot of people. And I think the meeting on Saturday showed that there were so many people that came up to people who have been following it and asked a lot of questions because they literally didn't know what's going on. And so, you direct them to the website, and there's like 200 pages. And this is where I put on my Shelter Island Association hat, because we were graced with the presence of Megan BJ at our last meeting on September 18th. And at the time of the meeting, the last chapter 11 on implementation, which is arguably a very key part of the plan, and perhaps one of the most important chapters, had not yet been released. Subsequently, it was released, and I'm still working on the 36 new pages of really critical things myself, because like many of the people, residents here, I have another job during the day, and it's a lot. And so my request is, given the abbreviated public hearing opportunity and the many issues raised, as well as kind of late filings of certain key chapters like implementation and zoning. And I did hear what everyone had to say today about the draft and the close of the public comment period being on that particular draft with yet another to come. I am nevertheless asking for an additional 30 days for that public comment period on this draft, because as I said, just not only the people that I communicate with who are neighborhood presidents, which are the people on the SIA, but also a lot of residents who know now. I mean, I've never been as involved in public matters as you all have, and I do appreciate the huge amount of time that it takes and the commitment. And I'm finding that it's a very rewarding, can be rewarding. And I've just received a lot of neighborhood comments and comments from other residents about how they would like more time to read what's there and try to understand it, and make their comments on it. A lot of people don't understand how meaningful it is. A lot of people have no idea that the major implementation tool is zoning changes. And that's a very important topic to our neighborhoods. Secondarily, just what I spoke on at the Saturday meeting, which was the noise ordinance. People had no idea that there would be a potential dramatic change in the noise ordinance. And it wasn't really highlighted anyplace. And, you know, part of the reason people come to Central Island as their place is because they appreciate, what do they call it? The quiet rural charm. I mean, it's a very key thing to our neighborhoods. And so to have these kind of changes without a wide group of people knowing about them, I just think calls for a little additional 30-day period on this first 200-page draft that most people haven't yet had the time to examine. In addition, it would also allow the SIA to be able to talk about the implementation chapter at their next meeting, which is October 15th, or 16th, sorry, the day after the closing. And yet, if we extended it, then we too could talk about the implementation chapter and get back with more specific and hopefully valuable comments to the task force. Okay, thank you for letting me speak longer than 3 minutes.
Thank you,
Kim,
Yes.
I just have a quick question, just more about a process question. At your, let's just say, August meeting, how many members were present at the SIA meeting? I'm just curious.
I'll check the minutes and I'll get back to you, BJ. But you know, a good amount, because we were pleased to have this August meeting at the library tent. So we were able, it's kind of like the comments that you all said, it makes such a difference to have these meetings in person. I mean, you get to interact with people. They get to see, you know, that it's you, and, you know, hopefully people, as someone said at the very beginning of the meeting on Saturday, every person here is one of your neighbors. And I think that's a really important thing. And so regarding our August meeting, it was quite a pleasure to be able to see our neighbors in person. Thank you.
Do we have anybody on Zoom who wishes to speak today? Pam?
Yeah, hi, good afternoon. Sorry if I may sound ill, but that's because I am. That's why I missed you all on Saturday. I appreciate that the public hearing did occur on Saturday. Sounds like a great turnout. I'm glad that I had Sandra O'Connor read my letter because I couldn't be there in person. I'm just looking at, you say that all the things are online for everybody to review. One thing that isn't there right now is the video that was taken of that hearing. And I'd like to see that as soon as possible. I'm sorry, if we have October 15th as a cutoff date for comments. And then the other things that are missing, the draft EAF form that Joe Fenora filled out is also missing. I did email Coco about that. It was up and now it's gone. And then in relation to that, there are a couple of other plans that were mentioned in that draft that I also don't see on the comprehensive plan page. And I think that they should be there. And I'm just going to name them for you. There was the community housing plan, the ground and surface water management plan of 2020, the hazard mitigation plan of 2020, the watershed management plan of 2014, the Suffolk County Comprehensive Water Resource Management Plan, the Suffolk County Subwatersheds Wastewater Plan, the Peconic Estuary Comprehensive Conservation Management Plan, and our own Conservation Preservation Acquisition Plan. And I guess that's sort of in a draft state. And then there's also a WQI plan that's also in some kind of state of draft procedure. So I mean, these are all related to how this document was put together, and I think it would be very helpful for me personally to be able to reference those plans to the actual document at this point. And I know that, you know, from my correspondence, there are other plans and districts and programs that are mentioned in this comprehensive draft that have never been explained, never discussed with CPAC. So actually, I guess my question is, when we send comments on this draft to the 15th, that's fine. Where will it go next? Will there be another comprehensive plan task force public hearing so that those issues will be addressed by the advisory committee and the task force, made corrections, and then the public can look at it again? Or is this just going to go to the consultants? They're going to make changes, adjustments, and then it's off to the town board?
Well, the CPAC is going to go over all of the comments and the input that we've received, and they're going to make all the changes, and then they're going to hand the changes off to the consultants. The consultants will look at them and make the changes in the documents. And then at that point, the CPAC committee will decide what they want to do with it. If they think it's ready for the town board, or if they think that it needs more input.
So the CPAC will decide whether or not they will hold another public hearing on the latest draft, then the revised draft at that point. Is that correct? Is that what I'm supposed to say?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They'll advise the task force and the town, you know, that whether or not to have another, or could it go to town board for public hearing at that level? Okay, and then just a question on my submission there. When do I get an explanation as to what the Marine Business District is and the planned development districts are? Where is that going to be explained to anyone moving forward?
We're going to discuss it at the CPAC meeting because it's one of your comments. It's one of the things that came up was clarification on the concept of a marina district. So that'll come up in discussion in the group discussions.
On what date would that be, Meg?
I have no idea, Pam.
Okay.
As soon as I know,
I'm
they'll
just
be
wondering.
posted. We're trying to come up with a schedule of meetings for the CPAC. So once that schedule of meetings is nailed down, then they will all be posted on the website for everybody to see, because all those meetings are public meetings.
You know, I understand. I just wonder if it'll be before the cutoff date of the 15th, or if you will think about extending comments periods on this draft or not. Just trying to get a sense of it.
I don't see that as so crucial. I don't know if there'll be another opportunity and another opportunity and another opportunity. It's just which level it's going to happen at is, I guess, the question.
Yeah, well, and we're looking to have multiple meetings. So we're going to start hopefully trying to meet before October 15th a little bit to kind of go through everything that we've received to get caught up. And then there'll be meetings after October 15th reviewing all the information as well. So it'll take as long as it takes for the committee to go through everything we've received. That's why I don't have an exact schedule on when we'll be done or when we'll talk about X, Y, or Z, because, you know, we're regrouping.
Okay.
And now,
I'll watch for the calendar. And then if you could just see about these other documents to get them on the page, since they're
yeah, that's
related.
not a problem. Yeah, I actually had a master list of all the documents that needed to get posted, and it's my fault I haven't given it to Coco yet. So I'll make sure that happens today.
Okay.
Okay.
And Pam, if you want to.
I'm sorry, the comment log seems to have gone away too. That was rolling from the very beginning. You know, it was up to 27, 30 pages from the public. That comment log, I didn't see that posted any longer either.
So a lot of the stuff that had been on the page, we moved to plan update documents or planning resources because the page was getting very busy. So if you do go to the plan update documents, you will see that the logs are there. That's where we move them to. Along with older versions of the chapters and things like that, all the minutes, just because that homepage for the comprehensive plan was getting confusing. There was just too much on it, and then people were getting lost. They couldn't find the newest drafts of things. So we did move it into like the blue buttons at the bottom. And then in planning resources, that has some of the documents you're looking for, but mostly the old comprehensive plan documents, like the 2008 update, the 94, and some land use maps. But we will add another section that will have all of the reference documents that you were referring to.
Okay, can I just ask about one more thing? There is an implementation plan that you compared what they did in 94 and 2008, and then the last column is empty. That's for the 2022 implementation things. It'd be helpful if you filled out that whole thing so we could see the progression of what it was in 94, what was suggested in 2008, and then what is suggested now. And I realized that that document is 164 pages long, and that could take a bit of time for you to fill in the blanks, but it would certainly make it easier for the public to understand, okay, this is where we were, this is where we thought about going, and this is where we're looking to go now.
Right.
It's
Yeah,
just something, that's something to consider. I'm not, no pressure, just something to consider.
No, it's a good suggestion. I did create those in the very beginning when we started rebooting this as a potential tool to help us. But it's not necessarily something that we've circled back to. But it's a good suggestion.
And Pam,
Thanks
if you
for
could,
your time. Thanks for all your hard work. Thanks for all the efforts you put forward and being there for the public. And hopefully you all stayed well and didn't get a cold like I did, because it's just not comfortable. And I'll be looking forward to the next meeting. Thanks again.
and Pam, if you could just send your list of the reference documents that you were looking for, so we can have Coco cross-reference with what she gets from Meg.
Sure, will do.
Thank you. Julia Brennan?
Hi, I just have a question. It's really, I'm asking for a clarification. Chapter 11 includes a long list of recommendations. Is there anything in chapter 11 that isn't present elsewhere in the plan? I thought it was pulls things that you had pulled out of the plan, sort of like an index to make it easier to see what the recommendations were rather than an additional load of information. Is that correct?
That's correct. So chapter 11 is really an index, like you said, of all the recommendations that are spread out through all the chapters. It's a way to consolidate them into one place so that people can find them easier. And also the descriptions in chapter 11 are summaries of the actual full recommendations that can be found in the chapter. So, you know, for more clarity on anything you find in chapter 11, reference back to the chapter.
The other thing is what we, a good reader, I would say, a person who is a good reader of the document did alert us to the fact that there was a recommendation earlier in the document that didn't get, do I have this right, Meg? Didn't get to chapter 11? Was that the flagging by Mr. Schillenberg?
Yeah.
So, I mean, you know, thankful to careful readers. I must say, you know, you read it often enough, you can miss detail after a while. So we do know that. The other interesting thing, if I can point it out about zoning, I mean, about that final chapter, all the zoning recommendations are listed kind of as the first thing, just because people, because that's important.
About that?
If you can come up, just so people
I'm
can hear you.
really quick. So the action agenda on page 3 has little stars that talk about how it's going to get implemented, what's hard to do, what's easy to do. It also contains things that say what the implementation tools are and which are most important. So it's really not a scenario where you can just say, well, I read the first X chapters, I don't need to read this last one. Because those action items and how hard they are to implement or not, and how it will happen ultimately with legislation at the town board is in this chapter. Thank you.
I agree, Kim. I recommend that everybody reads all the chapters, including chapter 11, which ranks them according to their complication and difficulty, and it lists who the, groups of people who would need to work together in order to achieve those goals are. It does a whole bunch of things.
Partners.
The answer to Julia Brennan's question was that, yes, Nothing in chapter 11 should be new. There should be no new recommendations in chapter 11. They should be the recommendations that were in all the previous chapters. They're just pulled together into chapter 11. And then chapter 11 is where each recommendation is given a ranking, so to speak, of complexity and difficulty and potential expense. And so that is new information that's in chapter 11 that wasn't listed in the previous chapters, but there should be no new recommendations in chapter 11. They're all of the recommendations from the previous chapters.
Pam?
Yeah, let me just follow up on that. You said that the chapter 11 shows potential expense, but there's no fiscal numbers put in this comprehensive plan. We don't know
Correct.
what the fiscal impact is going to be in implementing all of this stuff. And I think that that's a responsibility to sort of weed that out and let us know, hey, yeah, I'd like to support this project, but if it's going to cost this amount of money and only this many people are going to benefit, then maybe I don't want to support that project. I'm wondering why that's sort of been put on the back burner and nobody really knows what all this is going to wind up costing, future residents of the island as well as current ones. So I think that should be part of the implementation plan. I've seen it done for other comprehensive plans. I was rather surprised to see that it's not in this one.
Thank you, Pam. The way we kind of incorporated that is like, if it's going to be a far more expensive project, it has a higher complexity rating. It's hard to put a dollar sign on some of these because it requires a lot of different things coming together. So really, that's something that should be discussed at the board level, the town board level, when they decide to tackle one of these projects, is looking at what the potential expense of that project can be. Especially considering the way our economy has been changing so rapidly, and now we've had inflation and everything else, it's hard to put a dollar amount on something today and expect it to be the same 5-10 years from now. We look back at numbers that they put in previous plans and they don't even come close to what it would cost us to do now. So in order to not confuse and complicate issues, we instead went with a degree of complexity that if something, a project is also anticipated to be rather expensive, it got a higher difficulty rating because that is something that has to get taken into account. Whereas if it's something that is maybe simpler to achieve with just a code change, but there's no real expense, there's no multi-jurisdictional complications, things like that, then it would get a lower complexity or a 1-star rating, for example. So it was kind of to make it less confusing because it's hard to put a price tag on something when that price tag can always vary.
Okay, thanks, Meg. That's a helpful explanation.
No problem.
Is there anyone else? Okay, if there's no one else,
I think Julie Lane just came unmuted.
Just a quick question away from the comp plan. I know that John Needham has tendered his resignation after 26 years with the Waterways Management Advisory Council. Wonder if any of you have any comment on his decision.
Yeah, I probably should have some comment. Yeah, I've had the pleasure, and it's been a distinct pleasure of working with John for the last 8 years and the committee. Have the utmost respect for John, takes the job very, very serious, puts a lot of time and effort into it. He's often used the expression, I didn't sign up for this, because things have gotten pretty complicated in the last, not in the first 5 or 6 years, but in the last couple of years with what we've tried to tackle with moorings and, paying for things online and docks and changing. It's been tough. It's been tough on him, and he's been pulled in many, many different directions, and it's exhausting, and I think he's the first one to admit that it was starting to wear on him a little bit, and I respect that. It's one of the reasons that Jim Colligan's probably not running for office again, is because of my age and the fact that I love doing this job, but it wears on you after a while, and it's time to get younger, and it's time to get new thought process in, and I think maybe John might be feeling the same way. I hope that's the reason. But there's no doubt that John has earned the respect of not only his committee, not only this town board, but for all those people that have had workings with John Needham, for dock applications, mooring applications. The man goes out of his way to try to be fair, impartial, and be helpful. And that's what I appreciate most about John. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, if there is no one else, let's have a motion to close this meeting.
So moved.
Oh, we have to go to executive session. We have
Oh, right.
contract
Oh, yes,
negotiations.
sorry, just a quick update on contracts. Yeah. Okay. So
So let's close this meeting, go into
all in
executive
favor?
session.
All in
Aye.
favor?
Aye.
Great. Thank you, everyone. BJ, we'll keep you on,
Mhm.
or do you need to jump?
No, I'm good.
Thank you.